Hello and welcome to Fixing South Sudan, your ideas for building the new nation. I am Adingor.
This week, as the Ministry of Federal Affairs of the Republic of South Sudan is bringing to you the debate on federalism to South Sudan in collaboration with Dolco Media. For this debate to kick off, please welcome with me the host and moderator for this debate, award-winning journalist, Mading Ngor.
Good morning. Before we start the program, I'm going to welcome the panelists. May I welcome Honorable Dr. Richard K. Mola, Minister of Federal Affairs. May I also welcome Honorable Nathaniel Oyet, SPLMIO Governor for Torit State. May I also welcome Honorable Natiso Leluke Manir, former Governor, Imatong State. May I also welcome Honorable Grace Abalang, Member of Parliament, TLNA. May you also welcome Honorable Tulio Odongi Ayawo, Member of Parliament. May I also recognize the presence of Honorable Hassan Urbano Alex, Minister of Education and Acting Governor. May I also welcome myself. And last but not least, may you welcome yourself to the program. Hello and welcome to Fixing South Sudan, your ideas for building the new nation. I am Adingor. This week on Fixing South Sudan, the debate on federalism to South Sudan comes to Torit State. Today, in the historical town of Torit, we debate about the future of our democracy. What kind of system of governance can and will fix South Sudan? Is federalism the answer to our current governance challenges? What are the pitfalls and benefits of a federation? And what have been the difficulties associated with the current decentralization policies? I'm happy to invite my panel to come and digest and dissect this issue. And with me in the panel is Honorable Dr. Richard K. Mola, the Minister of Federal Affairs. Honorable Nathaniel Oyet, SPLM-IO Governor for Torit State, Honorable Natricio Loluke Manir, former Governor, Imotong State, and a member of the National Dialogue. Honorable Grace Abalang, Member of Parliament, TNLA, and Honorable Tulio Odongi Ayaho, Member of Parliament, and former SPLM Chief Whip of the SPLM Caucus, TNLA. It's my pleasure to welcome them to the panel, and I'm going to begin with the Minister of Federal Affairs. I would like to welcome the Minister of Federal Affairs to tell us about his ministry, the program of his ministry, and why we have been going from state to state. Minister.
Thank you, Madingor. Today we are bringing federalism to South Sudan, to Torit. This is an outreach program of my ministry. My ministry was established as a result of the 2015 agreement, and its continued existence has been confirmed by the RRCs of 2018, so that it can promote the establishment of federalism in South Sudan, since it is popular demand of the people of South Sudan. Federalism is a system of governance where there are more than one level of government. There are 2 levels or can be 3 levels. In most cases, there are 3 levels of government. The national, that is the federal government, the state government, and the local government, which is the county government. However, in Kenya, there are only 2 levels, the national government and the counties. This is an exception. Here in South Sudan, we are already having 3 levels of government, and our federal system will maintain the 3 levels of government because it will be suitable for us. A federal system has a constitution where all the powers of the various levels of government are clearly defined. Financial powers are defined, executive powers are defined, and political powers are also well defined in a constitution, in the sense that these powers are entrenched and cannot be changed by the national legislature. If there is a change to take place affecting the powers of the states or the lower level governments, their consent must be sought. The government in Juba cannot alter anything that affects the interests of lower level governments without their approval. This is the importance of federalism, making it different from a decentralized system. In a decentralized system, powers are also delegated to the lower level government, but at any time they can be withdrawn. In a federal system, powers cannot be withdrawn by the national government unless through constitutional amendment and with approval of lower level governments.
May I ask you, Honorable Minister, how do we move from a decentralized system, which we have, to a federal system?
In order to move from a decentralized system of government to a federal system, we need to amend our constitution. We need to redraft our constitution to become a federal constitution rather than a decentralized constitution. And as I was saying, especially powers of amendment or powers of change in the constitution cannot be done by the national government alone. And the other thing is the intervention. In a federal setup, the central government or the federal government cannot just intervene in the affairs of the states. It can only intervene in cases of emergency and with the approval of parliament. It cannot do it on its own. So that the lower levels of government in a federal system are protected. Their autonomy is protected to enable them to function properly. They are elected, after all, by the people. The people at the local government level are elected by the citizens. And the level of the state are also elected by the citizens of the state. Those of the national level will also be elected by the whole country. So if they have to be removed, they have to be removed by the people who elected them. They cannot be removed by decrees. It gives a protection and sustainability for the various levels of government to be able to perform their functions. And as I said, that with the powers, with the political, administrative powers, there accompanies financial powers, adequate financial resources, inequitably distributed all over the world, so that, the country, so that the various levels of government are able to deliver services and development to the respective populations they administer.
Honorable Minister, the current decentralized system of governance is a type of federation. Why talk about federation when we have a decentralized system? Or are you saying maybe there are failures?
The current decentralized system is similar to a federal system, but it is not federal enough. It is not federal enough in the sense that it does not guarantee autonomy to the lower level governments. The lower level governments can be abolished, they can be dismissed, they can be dismantled at any time at the mercy of the central government. At the same time, there can be intervention in their affairs without any protection offered to them. That makes the decentralized system a very risky system of governance and cannot enable the various governments in the country to function properly.
Thank you very much. And may I welcome Honorable Nathaniel Oyet. Earlier, I introduced him as the SPLMIO governor for Torit. The correction is Imotong State. Torit was not born yet. Welcome. SPLMIO has been part and parcel of the call for federalism. What can you say about this system? And that is also an indictment of the system that exists. Welcome.
Thank you very much. As you are aware, this is part of the peace process. The dissemination of federal program in South Sudan is part and parcel of implementation of the peace agreement. The peace agreement enshrines that federalism should be the system of governance for South Sudan. Why? We are reflecting the popular demand of the South Sudanese people. Why do we need federalism? Is because we want to protect the human rights, the civil liberty of the South Sudanese people. We want to ensure services is brought closer to the people of South Sudan at the grassroots. We want to divide powers between the central, the state, and the local government. We want to divide resources between the central, the state, and the local government, such that the state government can discharge its function for service delivery to the population of South Sudan. The county governments or the local government can also equally dispense its responsibility to the masses of South Sudan. The current system, actually I want to correct, it is not decentralized as such. It is actually centralization. South Sudan, yes, in the constitution it is written decentralization, but the way it is being practiced, it is centralization. Because there is no way, if a governor is elected by the people, then the central government, by a presidential decree, can remove him from office or her from office. There is no way that you can issue executive orders and remove the powers, the financial powers of the states and put it at the center, such that now the states and the counties or the local governments are now paralyzed. They cannot dispense services to the South Sudanese people. They cannot construct roads. They cannot build schools because everything has been centralized at the center. So the system of federalism is here to address these discrepancies such that we have services brought closer to the people.
May I ask you if there is an amendment to the current system and the progressive aspects are included, is there a need for federalism?
Well, you should distinguish that federalism is different from any other system. Why? Because once the powers are distributed to the levels of government, it is very hard and difficult for you to reverse it. Once you give powers to the states, once you give powers to local governments, the center or no any other unit of government or level of government can actually remove such powers. So once we amend the Constitution, it's not actual amendment of the Constitution, by the way. This is a very big clarification that I want to make. The agreement in Chapter 6 talks of permanent constitutional making process, which will be people-driven. The Constitution that is being amended now is just to take us to that process where we shall have a new Constitution, which will be a federal Constitution. So the question of amendments will not actually even arise. The question that we should be talking about, how do we ensure the popular participation of the people of South Sudan such that in the permanent constitutional making process, their voice, including their popular demand for federalism, is captured and is enacted.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And let me bring in Honorable Natisio Lukemanir. There is actually administrative decentralization in the Republic of South Sudan. All the systems of government that would be seen in a federation are already in place. The central, the state, and the local government. So why federation?
Thank you. Federation is a historical call by the people of South Sudan, dating back to 1947 during the Juba Conference, and as well as our people have been requesting it in the National Assembly then in Khartoum. Father Satulino stood in the assembly and asked the then Sudan government to grant federation for our people. So I'm so happy to be here today in Torit. I would like to reiterate the fact that the first liberation is over. And it was you, the people of this state, who thought about it, and today we have South Sudan. Congratulations. Now, the second stage of your demand is federalism. Federalism, the fact that we have all the administrative structures in place, we have the constitutional making in place. One of our biggest problems, why people are asking for federalism today, is because there are weak institutions at all levels. Institutions are unable to implement their programs. One of the key issues is that the interdependence between states and between the central government and the state government is weaker. The intergovernmental relationship, which used to be, are also getting weaker. We used to have the Governors Forum, which was one of the intergovernmental relations. It has stopped. The need for federalism is also really to bring in the element of true democracy. Democracy where all the people will come together and popular demand, and all people are elected popularly, and they are given their positions in a very democratic manner. Not the time when we have political parties that are moving as if they are really political parties. They are not, because what the political parties need today, they just need positions. We need a political party, a robust political party with membership, with the people who can challenge us, the ruling party. But at the moment, these are not there because we still have to build in democracy. We also feel that really services have not been reaching to the people. Why? Is because resources are controlled in the center. As you all know, today almost 80% of the resources are in the center. And as a result, this control of resources in the center has created power struggle. And this power struggle has made South Sudan not to be the South Sudan we know. today the people are more divided. The issue of diversity, how to manage diversity, and all these are issues to do with the power struggle. So the need for federalism is to make sure power in the center is reduced. Today, we have all the ministries in Juba. That should not be the case. In the case of federalism, we will have only few ministries at the level of Juba.
Honorable Natiso, the current system, whether you agree with me or not, is progressive enough. Are we talking about non-implementation of the aspects to centralization? Because they are two faces of the same coin.
That's true. As I was saying, there are administrative aspects. Because honestly, non-implementation is one aspect. And this is coming from the fact that our institutions are not empowered enough.
And my question to you, so that you add the other view, if we put a federal system in place and we don't implement it, is that what we want?
Actually, the issue of implementation has been a challenge. But all the same, what is important, stay for instance in terms of resources. You see today, resources, people like the states, there is no competition. You know, competition can improve the efficiency of running a system. Because right now, the states are supposed to get their own resources so that they are defined as a state. And that is one of the prerequisites for anybody to demand for a state. You must produce your own revenue. So here I am saying the issue of implementation of whatever system that we have is a setback, and it is being addressed at the moment. But federal system will give us a more comfortable way of handling issues.
Thank you very much.
People would like to have their own system where they take control of it. They would like to have a say in decision making.
Thank you very much. Honorable Grace Avalan, the National Parliament is supposed to be a watchdog for the executive and any non-implementation of the laws. You are the one who is supposed to hold them accountable. Why is that not happening? And will it change in the federation? Welcome.
Thank you very much. The National Assembly is really doing its job, is watching the national executive. But the problem is, because in our case, we have two houses, which is called the legislature, and we have the Council of State and the National Assembly. And the National Assembly, according to our constitution, have more powers than the Council of State. So our Council of State have limited powers. So in case of federalism, the Council of State, which is supposed to be called the Senate, is there to guarantee the rights of the people at the state level. So in our case right now, it's not happening because the Council of State is not doing that function, Comrade Mading. So if the Council of State does that function, and when we change the name to the Senate, it will do better, and it will guarantee the right of state, and the rights that it has to guarantee especially is the resource, because the resource is the Council of State to guarantee it at the national level.
Follow up to that question. So in a federation, how will your role change from currently there is a Council of States and then the National Legislative Assembly? How would it look like in a federation?
Yes, in federation, our role will change because the Senate will be the upper house and the National Assembly will be the lower house. And the Senate will even have the veto, things to do with the National Assembly. But currently, the Senate does not have a veto. If we pass things, it goes to inter-house, and sometimes it goes as it is with the National Assembly, because the National Assembly have more powers than the Council of State right now. That needs to change. And in federal system, it will change because the members of the Senate will be elected directly from the city of the state. But in our case, our Council of State was elected by the state parliaments. But in federal arrangement, they will be elected direct by the citizen of that state, and they will represent your interests better than the one which is there right now.
And what is going to serve your people better? You are a representative of the people, and what can you say? Is it decentralization or is it federalism?
You know, decentralized system is not that quite good because it did not provide, it did not bring service to our people. You can even say our people are suffering. But federal system will guarantee that there will be services, delivery, there will be peace people will be happy and there will be prosperity. That's what federal system will do. But decentralized system, that's where we have ended up having war.
Thank you very much. And Honorable Tulio, the fight in South Sudan is a competition over power and resources. And we are really talking about resources. So on the physical side of things, the financial aspects, what will change in the federal setup? How will resources be distributed between the states? Welcome.
Thank you very much. I take this opportunity really to express my presence in Torit. This is a historic town. The issue of federalism was pronounced by a Liberal Party led by the son of Chukudum. When it comes to federal system, the federal system was earlier required by our people. Many of them have passed away, but they left us with a legacy of federal system, which we need to implement. Father Satulino made a pronouncement which has now brought us the independence, self-determination. It was also from here. The war of liberation was also fought from here. So this is a historic town. You are the lucky people. Now, the issue of federalism has already been brought to you. I knew the issue right from Naivasha when we had the discussions for peace. Khartoum wanted us to adopt a federal system, mirroring their own federal system. But SPLM said, no, we are not going to use the word F federal. We will use decentralization. And if you see the constitution, the interim constitution was really a very strong constitution, almost federal. But the transitional seems to have changed. And we make our constitution to be a decentralized constitution. Let me qualify the two. Federal is protected by law because you would have a covenant with the central government, a covenant that gives you the powers in the state and local government. Nobody can withdraw it at all, as the minister earlier said. You cannot withdraw unless you will challenge the withdrawal or the national or the federal government to the Supreme Court. Decentralization is exactly like devolution. It is you decentralize, but you can withdraw the powers. And this is what is happening to us. Many of our colleagues talk of weakness of decentralization, and truly, decentralization has failed us. You have seen we have not moved a lot. We seem to have come from 2005 up to 2012. That's it, we are at a halt. We need a solution to our issues, conflicts. We are a more diverse nation, and this diversity requires a federal system. And federal system will make and adjust even the resources. The resources we receive, of course, it's being collected by national government, and part of it is transferred to the lower subnationals. We are quite aware of block grant. This block grant transfer is a horizontal transfer from the center into the state. And you are also aware of conditional transfer. Conditional transfer is made to resolve the horizontal activities like education, health, they receive those transfers. But the states are supposed to raise their own revenues because you are given the taxing power. You will tax and supplement it by the block grant. In the federal system, we have seen, you have seen in Kenya, there is a percentage fix, which is 15% to be transferred to the counties. But here, there seems to be no fixed percentage. And we are finding difficulties. We in Assembly always try to question the Ministry of Finance why the transfers are so low, because they can be very low.
Honorable Tulio, it seems that what you are bringing forward defeats the argument that in a federation there will be a constitution that sets in place the percentages. But as it seems, it's not just about spelling it out clearly in the constitution. There's more to it than that.
That's why I'm trying to tell you what is existing now is not good enough. That's why we are going for federal system. Even a devolutionary nation like Kenya and also South Africa, they are transferring resources, they collect resources, and they share resources in 3 levels: the federal, the state, and the local government.
My point is, the current minimum that the centralization spells out is not being done. So I did not get a satisfactory answer. If you simply embrace a federation and you spell things clearly and it is not implemented, what difference will it make?
The issue is the Constitution. If we go for constitutional making process, clear percentages will be established. And these percentages are required because if you transfer the responsibility to the state and local government, money have to follow. In the recent conferences, regional conferences, they had suggested at least the states should have about 45%, while the nation goes to 55%, because the national or the federal government will be responsible for the security sector, which requires a lot of money. Percentages will be established during the constitutional making process, where all of you will be part.
Thank you very much. And this is Fixing South Sudan, your ideas for building the new nation. With me, Mading Or, and we are in Torit. And the panel is composed of Honorable Dr. Richard K. Muller, Minister of Federal Affairs, Honorable Nathaniel Oyed, SPLM-IO Governor, Imatong State, Honorable Natiso Loluke Manir, former Governor, Imatong State, and a member of the National Dialogue. Honorable Grace Abalang, Member of Parliament, TNLA, Honorable Tulio Odongi Ayao, Member of Parliament and former SPLM Chief Whip of the SPLM Caucus, TNLA. And now is a chance to hear from the people. We're going to get few chances. Be very brief. You say your name, your position or association, and then you will put across if you are asking a question to whom you are directing it to, and if you are expressing a view, let it be very concise.
I am John, the Minister of Finance for Torit State. I'm asking a question in a quantification form. We as South Sudanese, we are a little bit more than 10 million by census. We have rich resources, and I would like to direct my question to Honorable Richard K. Muller. He has mentioned the resources. And I would like to know, and there are several series of federalism types. Now, I would like to know specifically, what type of federalism that can mitigate equal distribution of socio-political and economic resources to the people of South Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You can pass it next to you.
My names are Honorable Clement Lakuchi Kim, Advisor on Girl Child Education and Environment, Government of Torit State. It is an opportunity for me and all of us to be in this forum and also to have the panel before us in regards to federalism. As it was stated by the members of the panel, the federalism in South Sudan has been all the time being spoken. And we are today in the reality of going for implementation or trying to deliberate on how we can forge a way forward on the right model of federal system. My question is on Honorable Richard K. Muller, that has been championing on this and has been mandated by the people of South Sudan to start the beginning on how we can go on the system. We have countries that have implemented a federal system. Some melted out from it. That is because of lack of political will. We are going to have the federal system in the country. The Constitution is the guarantor on the implementation of the federal system in every country or in any country in the world that wanted the federal system. But my question is, how much guarantee that the people of South Sudan will protect this federal system that we are going to have?
Thank you.
Because one is the decentralized system, which was almost part and partial of the federal system in the current constitution, but the people of South Sudan decided also not to implement it the right way.
Thank you very much. And since we are talking about federation, we have to distribute equally, and let's bring it on the other side.
Thank you very much. My question will be directed to Richard K. Mura, and another question will be directed to Honorable Tulio Odongi.
Please introduce yourself.
Yes. Honorable Richard Mola, you have talked all about the positive aspects of federalism, that we all know that with all the positive aspects that you have given, I felt confident that South Sudan will be able to fix its own state. But now the question is, you have not also given us, I wanted you to clarify more on the disadvantage and give disadvantage of federal system. And then you can also give some, maybe some examples of countries that have gone and experienced like South Sudan, so that the people of South Sudan will be convinced that when we go to this federal system, most of their problems will be fixed. That's for you, K. Mola. And let me move down to Tulio. He has talked about the resources, the distribution of resources that will go down up to the lowest kind of a person. And Tulio, you have not really given us a very clear clue on how these resources could be reached really at the, it seems you are talking at the surface level. We also want you to go a little bit deeper so that everybody convinced the message of Torit that you are talking at, that this federal system will be a system that will really bring and shed light and to put off all the current situations of finances that we are not seeing. And we continue saying the current system is very bad. And I just want you to shed light on it so that we move together in the right track. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And your Honorable Margaret Edouard, the Minister of Information.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. My name is Josephine Thomas, Women List from Torit. Yeah, my name is Josephine Thomas, Women List from constituency number 3, Torit East, Kiala. Yeah, mine is only a simple question. As a grandmother, this federalism, will it really create jobs for the youth? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was quick and to the point, and I'm sure the youth will like that. I like, since we are talking about federation, someone highly marginalized at the very corner of South Sudan.
Thank you so much. By the name Orupi David Oyuek, the acting youth chairperson, Youth Union Torit State. My question goes to Dr. Richard Kaimola, because we have been following you seriously last year over the media in regard of the federal system. But today we thank God you are finally with us in Torit State here. Your ministry, Federal Affairs Ministries, it has the least budget in the national budget. And now you are seriously focusing on this, and you have the least budget. How will your ministries attract the people, the interest of the people of South Sudan when you have the least budget in the national parliament?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, moderator. The Minister of Parliament for Federal Affairs. I'm going. I think, Honorable Minister, I have seen these documents, and what I saw is only decided by physical federalism. And the other types are not mentioned. There are 11 types of federal system. Symmetric system, confederation, cooperative federalism, dual federal system, ethnic federal system, fantasy, federal monarchy, federal states, federal republic, federation, and physical federalism, which is mentioned here. Honorable Minister, I think we in this state are serious about this federal system. And as mentioned by Honorable Manir before, federal, as mentioned by Odongi, is a protective governance by law. So as such, I think I will urge you in your ministry to expect this type of system and disseminate to people, because let them know which one is good, so that tomorrow the technocrats who will be working in the permanent constitution of this country will use which one will be deemed necessary. Honorable Minister, I think reducing conflict, many scholars say that federation is only divisive when it elects mechanism. But here I saw the mechanism was already there. When I saw the visions and so on, it's good. And then the fear of many.
Can you wrap up, please?
Yeah, the fear of many is that federal system is an agenda to evict others from other states in which they do not belong, or that country will break up. It's not true. But Minister, this is already protected by law. The law is still the constitution will say that every citizen of South Sudan will live in anywhere he likes. So my question comes to Honorable Nathaniel Oyet. Honorable Nathaniel, you are from IO, which is true, which recommend to make things to change. Now, the 32 states
have become a problem. So these 32 states cannot be a problem. I can say when a man has 10 children in his house and they all get married and they get children, he cannot call a children and say, come back. So a federal system will incorporate all these 32 states. We in this state are marginalized. Even we need more state. We need more state here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. There are so many people here who have questions. But please always say your names first. Just one last chance here and we bring it to the panel. We will have another round.
Thank you for giving me the chance. I'm called by name David Adelina. I'm a journalist in Torit State. Actually, my question goes to Honorable K. Mula. As we have discussed mainly here on issues on resources in federation. As a student of political science or diplomacy, I would like to know what type of federalism will South Sudan choose. Because what I know, it seems there are in the whole world 2 types of federalism. The capitalist, which is the one of USA, where most of the other countries are copying but also suiting their environment. And also we have the former one of the socialists, which is the Soviet Union. Which one? We as South Sudanese, because we are rich people, we have petroleum, we have all these sorts of things. But one negative thing, we don't have industry. Because in US, they are rich. They have companies and industry. Each state has its own industry, why it gets its own resources from the industry, like the one of aeroplane, whatever, based on the state.
We are going to bring it back to the panel. You answer the questions, and then we'll throw it back to you. So be patient. There is more chances.
The Minister of Finance in Imatong State, Torit State, is asking for the best distribution of resources. First of all, let me tell you the current system in the decentralized system. The current system is that there is no specific formula for allocating resources to the various levels of the government. It is left at the discretion of the Ministry of Finance. When the Ministry of Finance prepares its envelope and takes it to the Parliament, he decides how much should be allotted to the states. And it would be surprising to know that in the current budget, the lower level governments, that means the 32 states plus ABA, plus about 500 counties are only benefiting from 9% of the national revenue. And the national government is benefiting 91%, not 80, as stated by Loluke, 91%. Now, there is supposed to be a body known as Financial Allocation and Monitoring Commission, which is in Juba. It is supposed to recommend allocation of revenue to the various levels of government. That commission is not doing its job. It was born dead from day one, and until today it has not picked up. In federal systems, as Tulio was saying before, normally there is a reference to financial allocation. If it does not go into details, then there is another law enacted to back up the article on financial allocation. And that law will provide the details of financial allocation, probably even with the formulas, allocation formulas for the different levels of government. Now, if I give you examples, of course, he said Kenya is an example. 15% is the minimum in Kenya. Ethiopia, 30% is the minimum. In Nigeria, the federal government gets 58.5%. 10% goes to the local governments, and the balance is to the states. It is done by a commission, a technocratic commission, scientific commission, established to study issues like population, needs, level of poverty, and so forth, and a number of issues are taken into consideration and used for recommending how formulas should be distributed. The word is not equal. The word is equitable, depending on the needs of that specific government. Now, in our case, it is even further worse because the parliament normally does nothing more than passing the budget of the Minister of Finance. In other countries, this Financial and Monetary Allocation Commission is made up of representatives of the federal government, including representatives of the state governments. And they use scientific formulas for making calculations. And it is backed up by Parliament. Parliament makes sure that the recommendations that emanate from those commissions are followed in the preparation of the envelope. If it is not done so, it is a case in itself. So in a federal setup, finance is given great advantage because you cannot give power without resources. Power must be followed with resources in order to be able for the government to deliver services and development to the respective levels of government. Physical federalism is a key matter in any federal setup, and it cannot escape the attention of the lawmakers and even the monitoring of the allocation of revenues. Revenues allocated to the states go direct to state accounts. Revenues allocated to the counties go direct to county accounts. There is no way by which county revenues are sent to the state and the state decides to do whatever it wants with it. So I would say that I'm not going to tell you the best. I'm going to say using those formulas adopted by other countries, borrowing left and right, putting in our own experience, we will be able to develop a comprehensive, equitable formula for South Sudan in terms of resource allocation. Now, there was another question. What is the guarantee for protecting a federal system? A federal system is protected by the Constitution itself. The Constitution is a contract between the government and the people. It is how the government promises to rule the people, to govern the people in accordance with the Constitution. Once the people have adopted the Constitution, it cannot be amended by anybody except through the constitutional amendment process, which is quite rigid. And it is the people, by the way, at the end of the day, to whom everybody is accountable. I, as a member of parliament, am accountable to the people. The commissioner is accountable to the people. The president is accountable to the people. If you have to guarantee the federal system, it is the people who will guarantee it, nobody else, the guarantee. But at the same time, there can be dispute resolution mechanism through the courts and through mediation processes. These are all guarantees. The fact that we disregard and break our constitution is unfortunate, and it has the breakdown, the breakdown of constitutions have always led to war. The breakdown of 72 Act led to war in 83. The breakdown of transitional constitution led down in war to 2013. Do you want us to continue breaking constitutions and leading ourselves to war? No. Time must come. We must have a peaceful system in a federal setup whereby all our rights are guaranteed by the Constitution, and the people are the vanguards of the Constitution.
Can I do a follow-up on that question? Because implicit in that question is what you have tried to answer, but a bit difficult. What if the Constitution is not respected? You are saying
That is,
the people are there to guarantee it, and if the people don't guarantee it, the laws are there, and then if the laws don't guarantee it, what next? And the question implicit in it is this really the right time for federation? Given the prevailing circumstances.
as I've told you, any constitutional breakdown leads to war. Any constitutional breakdown leads to war. And I believe that we have fought enough. And the federal system is, by the way, in itself will bring peace. It brings peace in the sense that it will manage our diversities. It will manage our aspirations. It will manage all that we want, because it gives each and every one of us some level of autonomy, some level of power sharing, some level of resource sharing. And therefore, for that matter, I believe federalism will be the best constitution, and that it will be difficult for any government to break it down, because the people will hold that government accountable.
You are privy to the thoughts that are being shared across South Sudan, and maybe this is a relevant question for this gathering, whether federalism first or peace first. There are those who are saying, let's have peace in place, and then let's talk about this system. But the Honorable Minister says federalism will bring sustainable peace. You can answer it for the audience.
Yes. You see, why do people fight? In the first place, why conflict? What are the root causes of conflict? The root causes of conflict arise over power. They arise over resources. As long as power is centered, as long as resources are centered, you cannot prevent conflict. If you have to prevent conflict, then you have to devolve powers and you have to devolve resources, so that each and every one of us go in their own levels of government and begin to participate at their own levels. And it will bring unity in diversity. Unity in diversity is more appreciated than imposed unity. Imposed unity will not help. It may even lead to secession. And secession is the opposite of federalism. Federalism not accepted leads to secession. You will remember what happened in Sudan when the South Sudanese, those of Father Satulino, were asking for federalism. If Khartoum had accepted federalism, maybe today we would have not been South Sudan Republic, would have been still part of Sudan. But because of rejecting the demand of the people of South Sudan, it led us to become an independent state as we are now.
Thank you.
Federalism has its own dangers when it is. Now, there is something important I want to talk about.
Go ahead.
That what are the disadvantages of federalism? It is true, federalism has its own shortcomings. Federalism can, as I have just explained, can lead to secession. If it is not acceptable by the whole population, the population that needs it, the population that demands it, can even secede. In the long run, it can become its own entity, by the way. Secession is not difficult, only that it takes time. But if federalism is accepted by all, and what we are trying to do now is we are trying to build consensus on federalism. We are moving around so that South Sudanese, if they say federalism is a popular demand, then they must have consensus. They must have consensus of federalism. They must develop federal spirit. They must develop communality. They must develop liking for one another, living together, like in Switzerland. In Switzerland, 26 cantons, the people said, we want to be one, and they have been one, and they enjoy being one, and they will continue to be one. In other types of federation, please give me more time. That is one. The other disadvantage.
Just a second. This is Fixing South Sudan, your ideas for building the new nation. With me, Madingor, live in Torit State, and we are debating federalism for South Sudan. And on the panel, Honorable Dr. Richard K. Muller, Minister of Federal Affairs, Honorable Nathaniel Oyet, SPLM-IO Governor, Imatong State, Honorable Grace Abalang, Member of Parliament, National Assembly, Honorable Narciso Leluke Mani, former Governor, Imatong State, Honorable Tulio Odongi Ayau, Member of Parliament, and we continue with the debate.
Yes, another fear of federalism has been what recently, or almost 20 years ago, took place here, or more than that. In 1983, the fear of Kokora. Kokora means everybody should go back to their ancestral areas. Go back to your ancestral area. Whether you like it or not, you have to go back where you were born. That is a big fear now in federalism, because in 83, as you remember, there was bad governance. Because of the bad governance system, the people of Equatoria asked for Kokora, and they were held by President Nimeri to implement it, whereby other communities from Bahar Ghazal and Upper Nile were asked to go back to their respective areas. And the people of Equatoria in those regions were also sent back to Equatoria. It was unfortunate, but that is not federalism. I want to make it clear that federalism has nothing to do with the division of the people. Federalism is about division of powers, division of resources between the three levels of government, so that services and development can go equitably all over the country. Today, we are not developing because we are not federal. Everything is centralized in Juba.
Sorry, I want to do a follow-up on that because there's a question in our social media, and someone is saying, I'm a Dinka from Agar. Do I have the right of movement and citizenship in a federal system?
The right of citizenship is for all South Sudanese. All South Sudanese are citizens of South Sudan. And as citizens of South Sudan, your rights are guaranteed in the Constitution. There is a Bill of Rights in the Constitution. The Bill of Rights is an international provision in all constitutions of the world that freedom of movement, freedom of residence is guaranteed to any citizen of any country all over the world. And I think the guy from Agar should have completely no fear, because that provision will continue to be there and nobody can remove it. It is an amendable provision.
It is not Kokora.
It is not Kokora. Kokora is something else.
We will come back
now,
to you.
Another fear of federalism is resources, resource allocation. There is a fear that oil-producing states will decide that the oil belongs to them only, and it is their prerogative to give how much to the center and to return how big to the state. That is not true. National resources, national wealth, oil, gas, minerals, those are national resources. They are collected by the nation and they are divided according to the formula I have stated before and transferred according to the way I stated before. However, states and local governments can have their own provisions to collect their own local resources, which are there in the Constitution. If you look at the current Constitution, there is provision for what the national government can collect, for what the state can collect. If you go to the Local Government Act, you will see what the local government can also collect. So national resources will be distributed equitably.
Thank you
so no state will monopolize its oil or monopolize its forest.
Thank you
Now, the
much.
other fear is capacity. Of course, these are the dangers.
We will come back. We still have more time and there are more questions that have not been answered. Let's pass it down.
Thank you very much. I think I have only one question which was asked. Yeah, one question which was asked is about the states, the number of states. That was directed to me, and I'm going to specifically answer that. The question was, now there are many states in South Sudan. The government is running 32 states. IO is running 21 states, and there used to be 10 states, and there are people who are talking of 3 greater regions to be states, and so on. Why does IO, SPLM, SPLA IO, is holding out on the issues of the number of states? I want to make a quick clarification that we should not confuse the creation of states with federalism. Yes, they are interrelated. For you to operationalize federalism, you will need a state-level government, much as you will also need the central level government and then the local level government. But what kind of states and how do you create these states? Will they be functional states, or they will just be states in their names without powers and capacity to dispense services to the people at the grassroots? This brings me to the question of criteria of creating states. Should we just adopt a state by pronouncement, or we should follow certain benchmark or criteria to create states? For instance, economic viability of states. If we create states, are we sure that these states will be able to raise its own resources, to stand on its own, all right? First of all, without depending even on the central government. And what will come from the central government as a way of allocation will be an added value to the economy of the state. We talk about population. Do we consider the population size of the states? For instance, when you look at the states now in South Sudan, they are not equal in terms of population size. All right. There are other states which have very small population. Formerly, probably they were counties or they were piams, while others were actually states in themselves. Or they were states broken into two. So you have more counties brought as states, while other counties or piam are made states. Another point is political representation. We create states because we want to be represented. We want to create constituency for people's representation at the central government, in the parliament, in the Senate, or at the state themselves, such that we have the voice of the people heard. Now, the question of this number of states vis-a-vis the other number of states is now under discussion. And we believe at the end of the day we will reach amicable solution without resorting to any violence. There is implication of having an, number of states to the achievement of federalism or to implementation of federalism. If you create as many states as possible, which are not viable, which cannot stand on itself, which cannot provide services to the people, which is at the end of the day dependent heavily or solely on the central government, how will you achieve federalism? Because the intention of federalism is for you to have a self-rule, a self-governance. You are able to get services from the closest point possible, from the state level, from the local government level. But now you have a state which is too small, with no any resources. The government itself is unable to run its public administration, is unable to, provide schools, education, health, and so forth. At the end, they are running back to the central government for services. Then the popular demand of the people, which is federalism, will be defeated. There is also confusion here that people are confusing the issue of creation of states because they are running away from some forms of domination. Like if, for instance, you go to Western Equatoria, you have large communities like the Zandes living together with the smaller ones like the Moro and the Abokaya, the Baka. The Baka or the Abokaya would prefer that let us have our own states. Even if it will be small, it will not be viable, all right? It will not provide services to the people just because they don't want to be together with the larger community, the Azandes. Now, at the end of the day, we shall not achieve national cohesion, peaceful coexistence, because we are creating these states because we are hating that particular group. This is the challenge that we South Sudanese are very soon going to enter into. And then if we create states without determining the boundaries, you create a state, you pronounce its name, but is sitting on the land that does not belong to that particular state. This is where also war will break out. We don't want such kind of states which will bring conflict. For instance, now in Upper Nile, we have problem in Cholo Kingdom, all right? We have problem among the Gogs and the Agar. We have problem in Wau, the Lol, and the Wau community. They are fighting over where to place the capital of the state, why the land is moved from this point to the other point, and all this and all that. We don't want this kind of crisis. We want states which are created based on criteria, which will be viable, which will provide resources for its own self, can generate its own revenue. Thank you very much.
Yeah, let me ask a final question that I asked the minister earlier. Is it federalism first or peace first?
You know, when you look at the root causes of the conflict in South Sudan, or even in the Sudan, you will find that the call for federalism and its denial has been the root causes of all the conflicts throughout our history. If you want to settle our differences, if you want to solve our problems, we must achieve federalism. And today, ladies and gentlemen, federalism is not an option. It is now a necessity that the people of South Sudan have been calling for it since time immemorial, and the parties have signed, have agreed, they signed, it is in the document, in the agreement, and also this agreement is incorporated in the transitional constitution of South Sudan, calling for the enactment of federal system of government during the permanent constitution making process. So the question whether we will go for it or not is now history. We are now looking for the best form of federalism. That's why there is need for popular consultation like this one, so that you people give your views. And at the end of the day, we arrive at the permanent constitutional making process with informed views, knowing that we want this kind of federalism, we want this number of states, which will be viable, which will be in position to provide resources, to provide services to its citizens.
Thank you very much. And Governor Narcisio, you can answer some of the questions, one of which is whether in the federation there will be jobs for the youth.
Thank you. In fact, I'm happy I was not being asked a question. I would just like to say, before I go to creation of jobs, let me emphasize on the issue of grantees, because the question to grantee, you see, grantee comes from your aspirations. What do you aspire to be as a person? You aspire to be somebody. You aspire as a nation to be like other nations. So how do you achieve these aspirations? We can achieve this aspiration, especially like the vision of the SPLM, taking towns to people through federalism. Federal system will make you, not the government in Juba, to plan for nursery schools. The jurisdiction of federal government will be confined at those other competencies. But here, right now, general education is being provided for at the center. Does it make sense? We are supposed to be the one planning. Actually, nursery is supposed to be the work of the Boma. Nursery education. And the Boma and the Payam. You see? And then primary education is supposed to be the responsibility of the county. Secondary education is supposed to be the responsibility of the state. Tertiary education is supposed to be the responsibility of the central government. Now, by dividing those roles very clearly, we are guaranteeing federalism because we are succeeding in what we want to do. That is very important. The other aspect of guaranteeing is development itself. Development. Look, it is now 73 years since federalism was pronounced. 73 years now. I want to ask you, how can you be asking the type of federalism when you have spent 73 years in federalism, in the call for federalism? So, sincerely speaking, the type of federalism should not be conceived that you are going to do copy and paste. No, you are not going to copy the federalism in Kenya. You are not going to copy the federalism in America. No, you have to go through this process by discussing among yourselves, looking at your past experiences in terms of administration, in terms of the political landmarks, in terms of the structures we have, institutional, and so on and so forth. And now you will be able to choose. But however, you are there, you are free to make choices of whether I can adapt a system which is suitable to me from another country. But never, never think that somebody is going to make for you a choice. It is your choice. Let me add again on the issue of fears. This fear has been expressed. And this fear, you know, when there is fear, it is real to some people. But fear, like for instance, people are talking, because you see, as we talk on federalism, in Torit, we don't hide things. And whenever we talk of something, when the people pronounce that we want to liberate away from the North that time, others were thinking that maybe these people are joking. But it's not true. So today, as we talk about federalism, you will see in the future federalism, the people, our children, will enjoy federalism. So one of the fears has been that people are saying, when you go for federalism, Equatoria will decide to go as a different country. This is a big fear. Equatoria will not go. Where will you go? You leave your own child. South Sudan is a child of Equatoria. It was developed here in Torit and cared. And then South Sudan is all from 1955, 64, 83. Now launch the big campaign and sacrifice in terms of lives. So today we have South Sudan. Nobody from Equatoria will tend to go away from this country.
And Governor, can you clarify that federalism as a member of the national dialogue has been adopted by all the regional
Exactly, thank you. The people of South Sudan, through the popular national dialogue, and we want to thank the President for coming with a national dialogue. President Salva Kiir, we thank you because this is a forum where the people, the grassroots, you remember we were here, we were in Chugudum, we were in Kapueta, we were in Lopa, we were in everywhere. The people expressed their things, their grantees, their problems, and really all over. We went to Awel, we were in Bentiu, in Bor, in Jongule, everywhere. The people have said they want federalism. In the regional conference of Barghazal, the people of Barghazal are saying, we are now moving to federalism. The people of Upper Nile, because of circumstances, the conference was brought to Juba because of the situation in Upper Nile. They also say the same. They are going for federalism. And the people of Equatoria, in the greatest Equatoria conference, all of you followed, and some of you participated in it, it came very clearly that people need federalism. So federalism has been long overdue. In fact, 73 years.
Governor, they need federalism. Do they need it now or later?
They need federalism now because the national dialogue, they need it now because the people are suffering and their hope is that they will only get their human dignity through federalism.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
very much. Honorable Grace, very quickly.
Thank you, Mading. I'm going to answer the question about creation of jobs to the youth. Honorable Mama Josephina,
Please use the mic.
federal system is going to create jobs for the youth because federal system is going to provide for good governance, and when there is good governance, there will be development, there will be peace, and there will be creation of jobs. But the centralized system only created politicians. It did not create jobs for the youth. And with federal system, people will get jobs through merits. And in federal system, there will be limited decrease. There will even be no decrease. For politicians, they will go through ballots to get jobs. Thank you so much.
Honorable Tulia.
Thank you very much. I would like to answer the question which was directed to me on the issue of finances. Every state or every level of federal government is supposed to have the taxing powers and the transfer of resources so that they can implement all the institutions given to them. I quite see the difficulties today. During my time, when I was a minister here, we had taxing powers, and they were expanded. We even established the Revenue Authority. But today, most of those powers are already withdrawn and taken to the central government, which is a mistake. It will not happen in a federal system. In a federal system, it will be protected by law. There will be a constitution that protects all your powers. I have seen the revenues at the state level are dwindling. During our time, we pay salaries on the 28th of the month, and people never missed it. And it was because we were running a federal system, almost a federal system during that time. I quite see the grantees. We have got, in a federal system, there will be checks and balances. You find in Kenya, they have got what they call Financial Allocation Commission. That allocation commission stands always in national parliament when when budgets are being discussed. They make sure the transfers are according to the devolved system. You also have a check and balance parliamentarian. The parliament should exercise its check and balance on all the transfers to the subnationals. In other countries like South Africa, they have got Federal Character Commission. That's why we really yearn for federal system. If there is a Federal Character Commission, they make sure employment, both civil service, training, and all areas of government reflects the federal system. And that's why we really yearn for a federal system. I quite see the issue of disadvantages. Definitely, there are people expressing their fears that if we go, especially regional, there will be a disintegration of the country, which is totally a wrong understanding. We have seen the dangers when India was united. They disintegrated because of religion. We have also seen Yugoslavia. They also disintegrated because of ethnicity. We are a diverse nation. We are having a lot of ethnicities. That's why I'm tempted to talk about states. As a matter of fact, the issue of states, at the beginning, during the creation,
we were yearning that later this state will expand. But I have seen the expansion seems to be a little negative, simply because states are created either going as ethnic decentralization or territorial. Why are some states remaining in the territorial stages, like Capueta, Torit, and Yei? These are the former districts. That's why we don't have border conflict at all. These three requires to be expanded. That's why we are saying, I quite agree with him that this 32 is not satisfying everybody. It has not satisfied people of Eastern Equatoria.
There will always be demand for more states.
Yeah. When there is going to be demand for more states, we need fairness in the distribution of these states. We should not have lopsided, especially the three regions. In the last regional conference,
we will go for equity. I'm sorry, we don't have more time, but we will go for equity rather than equality, as the minister was saying. And the key thing you said there is, in a federation, there will be checks and balances.
Please, the issue raised, especially in the regional conferences, is equality. They said we need 39 states. If there is a need for states, either we go maximum 39, 13 of each, where Eastern Equatoria will have another, to have 5 states. And Yei will have another state, especially in Equatoria. We need state to be fairer, because there is going to be representation of people in the House, what they call the House of Nationalities, which is the Council of State. Every state will go to the House of Nationality. Should we go to Torit, while others are coming 20? No.
Thank you.
It will be totally unfair.
Thank you very much. This is Fixing South Sudan, your ideas for building the new nation. I am Adingor here in Torit, and with us in the panel, Honorable Dr. Richard K. Muller, Minister of Federal Affairs, Honorable Nathaniel Oyet, SPLMIO Governor, Imatong State, Honorable Narciso Leluke Manir, former Governor, Imatong State, Honorable Grace Abalang, Member of Parliament, Honorable Tulio Odongi Ayau, Member of Parliament, and now more chances to the audiences. And we are going to take brief questions because time is of the essence. You just, once you are picked, you stand up, say your name and your brief questions, please.
I recognize all the protocol in this room. Today we are discussing a very interesting topic, which has touched the heart of each and every one of us in this house. However, I have a question to the panelists.
Your name, please?
My name is Angela Chepo, a member of parliament in the State Legislative Assembly. My question is, does federal system of government, will it define the boundary of the state? The federal system of government, will it define the boundaries of the state? Then another question. During the decentralized system of government, there are some land grabbed by some people. If we go for federal system, will this land be returned back to the owners? Thank you. This is
Thank you very much. And is there an academic here? Someone from the university or a scholar?
I would like to ask a question. My name is Honorable Martin Odwa, MP, TNLA, Juba. When will federalism be implemented in South Sudan?
Thank you very much.
I would like to explain a little so that you give me the right answer. I know that the TNLA is now discussing the incorporation of the peace agreement into the constitution of South Sudan. And in the peace agreement, federalism is mentioned as the popular demand of the people of South Sudan. Suppose the TNRA or the parliament soon passes this constitution, would that mean that federalism then would have to be implemented?
Thank you very much. Chance to a student.
Tuani Simon Dino are my names, a student from Torit Institute. So I wanted to ask a question to Honorable Minister. Will federalism address the issues of corruption? If yes, how?
Thank you very much.
The protocol is observed. He has actually asked what I had wanted to ask. My question was in this way that at the present, the revenue collection, we have fear. How will the federal system improve the collection of the revenue for us, the South Sudanese or the state, to build trust to that government of the state for this revenue for development? My name is Cristiano. I'm executive network Women Empowerment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't want to take our time. I'm very privileged to see all my leaders in front, and it is high time for me to ask them. Narcisio, my question was to you.
Your
You are
name?
saying you have no question.
Your name, please?
My name is John Loboy, PM, civil society activist. When we talk of federalism, that we need the distribution of the resources. And my governor of Imotong State put that one will give services to the communities. Now we talked that decentralization is not effective. How effective will this federal be? Will this federal bring us either something new, like accountability and justice? Why am I saying this? You said resources were centralized in the central government. You were part of it, all of you. Where are our CDF money? Who are the people who are centralizing our CDF money in the central government?
Thank you very much.
The second thing is, as we look, that federal system is addressing issues. Will this federal eliminate this virus of corruption?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Okong Solomon Lomiluk. My question to Dr. Eimola, I'm talking about the permanent constitution. How are we going to handle the permanent constitution? And then my question again goes to the co-chair of Iowa for Constitution Affairs. Since the two houses are not biased, not implementing issues, the Senate and the National Legislature, I wanted the member of the Council of the State to be within your community, within your committee. Because why Honorable Grace Abalang and Julio Odongi comes alone? Because it's the same that is biasness. And then there is...
Excuse me, sorry, we have to pass. Can you repeat your question?
So, my question is, since there is biasness within the two houses, the National Legislature and the Council of the State, because for last week, there was incorporating of the Constitution.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. There are so many hands up, so just ask a specific question. Start from the back there and come to the very end.
Actually, my name is Albino Pai Opula. I'm a member of Regional Council for Political Parties in Torit State. My question goes to Richard Muller. You have talked about equitable distribution of powers. Since we have about 32 states. What formula will you divide the 32 states to be equitable?
Thank you so much. I'm called Paridewani Moses and a secretary in Eastern Equatorial Library Association. My question goes direct to Dr. Kay Molan. You've been talking about the number of states. Really, when we come into agreement with the federal system, what will be the maximum number of states needed to avoid inconvenience and to avoid rebellions again?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm called Agaptolo Likailo, Deputy Chair for Fiscal Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, Torit State. I have a question to all of you in the bottom. If federalism was a demand, a popular demand of Southerners since 1947 up to the formation of national dialogue, what is the difficulty for us to implement this? What is the challenge? Secondly, my question also goes to our governor of our you in Imatong State, Nathaniel Oyet. You say don't mix state with the federalism. But for me, it should have been, because it is a component. If we have more states and we don't have resources, it will affect also federalism. This is why we have to put the number of states so that we will not be having a problem in implementation of federalism. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And many hands up, but we are running out of time. Give it right there next to the camera.
Thank you very much. My name is Eunice Nakiru, civil society activist. My question is going to all of you. If we go for federal system, who is going to be responsible of the loss of our people, the things that they've got lost during the time of war? Who is going to be responsible? Like the houses, the land, and other things. Especially in our area, many other buildings which has been built by the sweat of their own people, the individuals, by farming, and then it has been destroyed completely. Now, if we go for federal, who is going to be responsible for this?
Thank you.
Is there anybody going to be helping these people to build up their counties again or not?
Thank you very much. And I know I'm not going to satisfy everyone, but I have to come back to the panel because we are out of time. I am very sorry. But let me begin with Honorable Tulio, and then it will come right to the very end.
I have seen here people talking about boundaries, state boundaries. Definitely is a problem in the 32 states. There is conflict going on, and some areas have been appeased. A solution was found, especially in Upper Nile. But it's still, the issue of boundaries is still very elusive. That's why there is a need. Upper Nile was resolved by giving them more 4 states, and it resolved their problem. Other places requires to be resolved, like the conflict you may be seeing in Lol, because Raja wants its own state, and the people of Awil really wants their own state. It will be a requirement that resolve some of those. Corruption is endemic all over the world. Nigeria is also having the same corruption, although they are federal. What is required is constitutional provisions which curb this disease called corruption. If we have a constitution, we are the lucky people because we are going soon for constitutional making process. We will make sure that issue of corruption, including tribalism, will have to be spelled very clearly, and there are laws that caps some of those.
And on that issue, may I add to you, Honorable Tulio, since you were speaking about checks and balances earlier, and the current National Assembly is a lame duck assembly, is a rubber stamp assembly. Will that change in a federation? How will you, as honorable member, behave differently?
Currently, National Assembly is dominated by one party. We are more, SPLM is more than other parties. We don't have a robust opposition. If there could have been a robust opposition, this issue of rubber stamp would have never happened.
Will it change in a federation?
In a federal system, we are going to establish a new system which will be mirrored out of the Constitution. And that Constitution will spell clearly the competencies of the National Assembly to curb the issue of corruption. As somebody talked about federal system and decentralization, these are different systems of devolution. We tried devolution, that is the regional assembly. We also have done the current decentralized system. All of them seem to have failed. And that's why we are now talking about federalism, because we are a diverse area. We have got so many communities. Every community wants to have its own governance so that they can compete with other communities. So the issue of federal system is sharing power. The national power is going to be shared on various levels. Currently, we are having 3 levels, which is the national, which can be federal, and then state and local government. How they share their powers will have to be established in the Constitution.
I'm sorry, we have to move on, but the last question for you, can federalism fix South Sudan?
Federalism, as we have seen from other countries, federalism in Ethiopia, federalism in South Africa and Germany have fixed the nation. That's why we are thinking federalism, if it is going to be adapted, will fix South Sudan, especially the conflicts we are having at the moment, will be totally eradicated because everybody will be busy in his own federal government.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Honorable Grace, very quickly, and then you answer the question.
I'm going to talk about the CDF money. As we have said, we said the centralized system is not effective. And because of that, all the laws are not being implemented. CDF is an act of parliament. It was passed in parliament and assented to it by the president. But since 2011, they have suspended the act of CDF. So they are not giving any single money to CDF account. So when we went to parliament in 2010, we were given CDF money once. So now, 9 years, there are no CDF money. That's why we are saying we go federal. Then you will have the money, you will have CDF, you will have the development in the whole state of South Sudan.
And can federalism fix South Sudan?
Definitely, federal system will fix South Sudan. Federal system will bring peace. Federal system will bring prosperity to the people of South Sudan.
Thank you very much. Governor Narciso.
Thank you. I will respond to what John Loboy was asking about the issue of justice and the rule of law. Indeed, justice and the rule of law is one of the pillars for federalism. Without justice, there is no federalism. Without rule of law, there is no federalism. So these are the corners. And the difference, because I know you will ask, but what happened now? Is the difference. Because most of the things in a federal system, they are granted through the Constitution. And if somebody is tampering with your competencies, there is the law, there is the court that will decide on this, and you have that right to do so. Again, through federal systems, the devolutions of the structures, judicial structures, they will be devolved down to the states. Not the same way we have here. Currently, we have judges here, but they are answerable to the central government. But those ones will not be answerable directly because they will be independent. So in a federal system, there is independence of the judicial system. And that is where services will go to the people. So that is what I would like to answer. Yes, there was a very important question about the compensation of assets. You know, a government is not an individual. Even if people move to a federal system, but the requirements, the agenda, the issues of compensation of the war, there is a mechanism. Even in the current revitalized agreement, there is a provision on that. So let us get assured that even if federal system was to be implemented tomorrow, today, all those assets that were destroyed, the government will have a way of how best they can be compensated.
Thank you very much. And can federalism fix South Sudan?
Indeed, federalism is the only viable option. We will be more united in a federal system because currently people are divided even up to the family level. So we will be more united in a federal system and we will get satisfaction because even we leaders will be held accountable in a federal system. Right now, because you are not collecting taxes of your own, nobody is asking the state government, where is the money going, where is what? Nobody is asking. You are fearing. But in a federal system, you know you are the one collecting your own revenue, you will hold all of us leaders accountable.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Governor Nathaniel.
Thank you. There is this question which keeps on coming back about the states. Someone was asking, will having more states means federalism, if I capture it correctly? Well, it depends on whether these states are viable, whether these states are competent and are powerful enough and are responsive to the needs of the citizen. If they are not, if they will depend on the center, then my friend, you have no federalism. Federalism requires these states are semi-autonomous, are standing alone, are generating resources, remitting some of these resources to the center, and the center collecting from all other states and again distributing it down to the states. If your state is so tiny and is so poor to the extent that it cannot generate resources, then you're losing
They will
at the
get
point.
the political aspect of federalism.
The political aspect of federalism will never exist because it cannot exist in a vacuum. You cannot talk of ideology when you have empty stomach.
Actually, on that point is something that has to be noted, that there are precautions for federalism. To decentralize and to federalize, there has to be territorial control and monopoly of violence. This is going back to the fears earlier, that if you have a political party that doesn't have a stranglehold on the country, that country will disintegrate. That is something also to address.
Okay. There is this question about why TNLA, the members are here and where the members of the Council of States. I thought that would be administrative. I don't want to really delve into that. And I want to link the question of the viability of the states with the other question, which is about, can federalism solve the problem of revenue collection? Yes. These states, if they are properly constituted, if they are properly created, they should be able to have manpower, mechanism, and resource base so that they can tap these resources, be able to collect revenue for their functioning of the government.
I'm sorry, can you answer my question? Can federalism fix South Sudan as a way of ending the discussion?
Yes, federalism will fix South Sudan. Why? Because the root causes of the conflict that we have been having in the Sudan and now in South Sudan is linked to over-centralization of power in the center, marginalization of other members of the community of Sudan and also now of South Sudan. So federalism is a question and is an answer to our malaise.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, you have the last word.
Thank you. I want to go back to the questions earlier, which I didn't finish. One was the fears. One of the fears of federalism is a capacity, lack of capacity. Do our people of South Sudan have the capacity to implement a federal system of governance? True that we have about 500 governments now, plus the government in Juba could be about 501 governments. Do we have the capacity to run all these governments effectively? I said this would be a temporary problem because people can be trained, capacity can be built. In Ethiopia, when they decided to go federal, they established the university, the civil service university. They are producing many civil servants, training and retraining, and they are able to run their systems. For me, I would rather train more civil servants than train more soldiers. The other thing is the fear of the minority. You have not looked at this problem carefully. By the way, in a centralized system, there is one dominant national majority. The one dominant national majority is a threat to the rest of the ethnic communities. There is one ethnic community feared by 63 ethnic communities. How do you solve this problem? You can only solve this problem by devolving more powers and resources to other levels of government, thereby creating more regional or state majorities instead of having only one national majority. And it will allay the fears of the minority. You know, when the minority are afraid, the way they do things is violence. It erupts in violence. And to avoid violence, we better devolve more powers and resources. I was also asked to give examples of good federal systems in the world. By the way, the biggest countries today in the world are federal. America is a typical example. America is federal. They decided to come together, and today they are the most powerful in the world. Germany is powerful. Australia, Canada, all this. And India, by the way, let me give you the example of India. In 1947, when India became federal, it was the poorest country in the world, the most populated, the most uneducated. But since 1947, today, India, when it decided to become federal, even without educating its own population, the way we are doing it now, India is one of the biggest economies today in the world. Believe me or not, because it became federal. Let's come to Africa. Nigeria, a very powerful country in the world. In Africa, it is federal. South very powerful. It is federal. In fact, Nelson Mandela, the ANC was refusing federalism. They don't call it federalism, they call it devolution. But all the characteristics are federal. Nelson Mandela accepted that it should become federal. Today, you know, South Africa is powerful. Ethiopia, after fighting so many wars and decided, they called a conference of 27 fighting groups and different groups to agree on the future of Ethiopia. And they agreed in 91 that we will go federal. In 1994, they became federal constitutionally. Today, Ethiopia's GDP is 11%. Kenya was fighting, there was fear that the Mombasa would go, the people in the northern part would go to Somalia, and Kenya would be divided. Jomo Kenyatta was against Majimbo. But today, when his son developed the devolution, today Kenya, you can see every time you go to Nairobi, see how roads, buildings, structures are developed in Kenya. And if you will be surprised if you come to Turkana. Turkana, I could not see the Turkana building roads, building schools, girls speaking good English. I could not believe when I was still in the SPLA because it became federal. Now, other countries are aspiring to be federal. Somalia, war stopped. It's trying its best to stop war and become federal. Now, I don't see any reason why we cannot prosper in a federal system. We are a population of 10 million. Somebody said before, we are a very rich country, potentially rich. We have the oil, the gas, the minerals, agriculture, animal, forestry. We have more money than Ethiopia, more money than Kenya, more money than Uganda. But why are we poorer than them? You cannot believe. It is simply because we have a bad system of governance, a decentralized system of governance. A centralized, decentralized is centralized system of governance.
Last question
now,
for you. I know you have many questions,
yes.
But the last question for you, you have already agreed that federalism can fix South Sudan. But can it fix Torit State?
Of course. Federalism, I think the people of Torit would love it. I'm sure from what I've seen in Torit here. What don't you have in Torit? Almost everything. You have the animals, you have the fisheries, you have, these are your own still local resources. You have some minerals and so forth. Now, you will even, in addition to what you collect locally here, you will get transfers from the central, calculated scientifically, not decided by the Minister of Finance on his own.
So the answer is yes, and thank you very much. That's all the time we have for Fixing South Sudan, your ideas for building the new nation. And with me in the panel have been Honorable Dr. Richard K. Mola, Minister of Federal Affairs, Honorable Nathaniel Oyet, SPLMIO, Governor, Imatong State, Honorable Narciso Loluke Manir, former Governor, Imatong State, Honorable Grace Abalang, Member of Parliament, Honorable Tulio Odongi Ayahu. I want to thank my team and also the Acting Governor, Honorable Hassan Urbano Alex, Honorable Margaret, for all their support to this program, Fixing South Sudan in Torit. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to the panel.
Republic, when it